الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله وصلى اللهم على محمد وآل محمد.
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين عليا ولي الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين عليا حجة الله. اللهم صل على محمد. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. صلاة المغرب قربة الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. حول الله قوته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة من ذرية ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته. حول الله وتعالى. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الظليل. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللهم على محمد وآل اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. استغفر
الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. We take a few minutes break for Nawafil.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's remember those people who passed away from your family, our community, ulama, especially shuhada, with recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha after a loud salawat. Assalamu alaikum. It has been narrated that one day Imam Sajjad alayhi salam was praying and the rope that he was on his shoulder fell down. And Imam did not pay attention to the rope, he didn't try to fix it. And after the salat was finished, the companion of Imam asked Imam, how come you didn't fix your rope? Your rope was falling apart. Imam Sajjad says, salat is not acceptable until there's a full attention to salat. So it means if I go and fix my rope, it means I have to take my attention away from the salat and fix my rope. And my salat would not be complete and would not be completely acceptable. The companion of the Imam said, oh Imam, then we are in doom because we cannot focus in our salat from beginning to end. So what should we do? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam said, with nawafil, you complete your salat. So it means by praying the nawafil, any shortcomings that we have in our salat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to accept it as a complete salat. So I know some of the nawafil is very kind of extensive, like for example, nawafil dhuhr or asr, but you try to at least try to get in the habit at least to make it like one out of the four of the nawafil. And the nawafil is very easy. You don't have to make a wudu. You don't have to sit down and pray. Even you can walk down and kind of pray nawafil. If you don't pray the nawafil on time, make habitual at least. Do it in qaza while you're driving or doing something. So try to build in nawafil as part of your lifestyle, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our salat on the day of judgment, because if salat is accepted, everything else is accepted. Sallu ala nabi. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين علي ولي الله اللهم صل على محمد أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين علي ولي الله اللهم صل حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله صلاة العشاء قرة الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر استغفر الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر حول الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته ورفع درجته. حول الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. حول الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحان من لا يعتدي على أهل مملكته. سبحان من لا يأخذ أهل الأرض بألوان العذاب. سبحان الرؤوف الرحيم. اللهم اجعل لي في قلبي نورا وبصرا وفهما وعلما. إنك على كل شيء قدير. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
وإليك يعود السلام. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على الأئمة الحادين المهديين. السلام على جميع أنبياء الله ورسله وملائكته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام على علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام على فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي الشباب أهل الجنة أجمعين. السلام على علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام على محمد بن علي باقر علم النبيين. السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام على محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام على علي بن محمد الحادي. السلام على الحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام على الحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين ألم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون
बाबा तेरी उम्मत ने ज़हरा को सताया है बाबा तेरी उम्मत ने ज़हरा को सताया है हर गाम रुलाया है हर गाम रुलाया है दिल मेरा दुखाया है बाबा तेरी उम्मत ने ज़हरा को सताया है जिस दर पे मेरे
جس در پہ میرے بابا تم آتے تھے اس در کو امت کے امیروں نے توڑا ہے جلایا ہے بابا تیری امت نے زہرا کو ستایا ہے میں بنت پیمبر ہوں وہ جانتا ہے پھر بھی میں بنت پیمبر ہوں وہ جانتا ہے پھر بھی ظالم نے مجھے بابا دربار بلایا ہے بابا تیری امت نے زہرا کو ستایا ہے یہ کیسے مسلمان ہے کلمہ تیرا پڑھتے ہیں یہ کیسے مسلمان ہے کلمہ تیرا پڑھتے ہیں لیکن تیری بیٹی کا حق چھین کے کھایا ہے بابا تیری امت نے زہرا کو ستایا ہے پوچھو گے نہیں میرا کیوں پہلو شکستہ ہے پوچھو گے نہیں میرا کیوں پہلو شکستہ ہے امت نے تیری مجھ پہ دروازہ گرایا ہے بابا تیری امت نے زہرا کو ستایا ہے یاسر کہاں بی بی نے امت نے تیری بابا یاسر کہاں بی بی نے امت نے تیری بابا توہین میری کی ہے دل میرا دکھایا ہے بابا تیری امت نے زہرا کو ستایا ہے ہر گام رلایا ہے ہر گام رلایا ہے دل میرا دکھایا ہے بابا تیری امت نے जहरा को सताया है। एक नारे सलवात।
صل على محمد وآل محمد. يما زينب عد من تخليني طفلة بصغر سني منش تحرميني يا يما يا يما يا يما يا يما يا يما يا يما عد من تخليني موحش علي البيت وين التجي لوين يذوب القلب يما كل ما دير العين ألقى الحسن حاير يجري الدمع صابين وعاين المسمار وبكثر خويا حسين أبقى شاهدهم ما يسكنوني طفلة بصغر سني عد من تخليني يا يما انتظرك لمن يجي عاشور انت التسنديني يم جثة المنحور انت التسنديني يم جثة المنحور انت التسليني لا سلبة والخدور ولو لو فزت ايتامي ولو فرت ايتامي ومني القلب مكسور يبقى القلب حاير وتهل دمع عيني وتهل دمع عيني طفلة بصغر سني منش تحرميني صلوات.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. صلي على محمد. This is an Urdu poem in the love of Bibi Zahra. इश्क की इंतहा सैयदा फातिमा बिनते खैरुल वरा बिनते खैरुल वरा इश्क की इंतहा सैयदा फातिमा बिनते खैरुल वरा बिनते खैरुल वरा जाहिदा आबिदा साबिरा साजिदा बिनते खैरुल वरा बिनते खैरुल वरा शान अहले सखा سخا جانے خیر الورا شان اہل سخا جانے خیر الورا آنے مشکل کشا آنے مشکل کشا تجھ پہ قربان مریم فدا آسیہ تجھ پہ قربان مریم فدا آسیہ بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا تیرا بابا نبی اور شوہر ولی تیرا بابا نبی اور شوہر ولی نام جن کا علی نام جن کا علی اللہ اللہ تیرا مرتبہ سلسلہ اللہ اللہ تیرا مرتبہ سلسلہ بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا در پہ جو بھی گیا اس کا دامن بھرا در پہ جو بھی گیا اس کا دامن بھرا گوہر میں مرحبا مرحبا تیرا جود و سخا بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا جس کا گھر لٹ گیا وہ تیرا لاڈلا جس کا گھر لٹ گیا وہ تیرا لاڈلا نہ جھکا نہ بیکا نہ جھکا نہ بیکا کر دیا حق ادا یوں تیرے دودھ کا بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا تیری عظمت جدا تیری رفت والا تیری عظمت جدا تیری رفت والا گھر ہے نور علا گھر ہے نور علا ہو زباں سے بیاں تیری کیسے ثنا ہو زباں سے بیاں تیری کیسے ثنا بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا آیا تطہیر ہے تیرے سر کی رضا آیا تطہیر ہے تیرے سر کی رضا ہے عطائے خدا ہے عطائے خدا تجھ سے قائم ہے دنیا میں حسن و حیا تجھ سے قائم ہے دنیا میں حسن و حیا بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا سید کربلا کا تجھے واسطہ سید کربلا کا تجھے واسطہ سیدہ فاطمہ سیدہ فاطمہ بھر دو دامن میرا ہوں میں تیرا گدا بھر دو دامن میرا ہوں میں تیرا گدا بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا تیرے در سے صدا سب کا دامن بھرا تیرے در سے صدا سب کا دامن بھرا ایک نیازی ہے کیا ایک نیازی ہے کیا مانگیں در سے تیرے اولیاء اصفیاء مانگیں در سے تیرے اولیاء اصفیاء بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا عشق کی انتہا سیدہ فاطمہ بنت خیر الورا بنت خیر الورا صلو علی محمد وآل محمد
One loud Nare Salwat. آج رخصت
آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، کیا کہوں دل میں خیالات ہیں کیا کیا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، ہاں مدینے والوں کو تھا میرا رونا ناگوار، ہاں مدینے والوں کو تھا میرا رونا ناگوار، آج سے ہو گانا ان لوگوں کو شکوہ یا علی، دشمنوں کو تم نانے دینا میری لاش پر، دشمنوں کو تم نانے دینا میری لاش پر، پردہ شب میں میری میت اٹھانا یا علی، بعد میرے جان کیا ہو حال بچوں کا میرے، بعد میرے جان کیا ہو حال بچوں کا میرے، ان کو ایذا ہو تو ہوگی مجھ کو ایذا یا علی، فاقے کر کے آفتوں سے میں نے پالا ہے انہیں، فاقے کر کے آفتوں سے میں نے پالا ہے انہیں، تم خیال کا میری خاطر سے رکھنا یا علی، جانتے ہیں آپ یہ نازوں کا پالا ہے حسین، جانتے ہیں آپ یہ نازوں کا پالا ہے روئے دلاسا اس کو دینا یا علی تم کو زحمت ہوگی لیکن میری تسکین کے لیے تم کو زحمت ہوگی لیکن میری تسکین کے لیے میری تربت پر میرے بچوں کو لانا یا علی رہ گئے اپنا کلیجہ تھام کر مولا سعید رہ گئے اپنا کلیجہ تھام کر مولا سعید بولی زہرا جب خدا حافظ تمہارا یا علی آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی کیا کہوں دل میں خیالات ہیں کیا کیا یا علی آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی
نعرہ سلوات
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So I'm going to recite a piece of poetry in Farsi. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ای ز دست و سینه و بازوی تو حیدر خجل ای ز دست و سینه و بازوی تو حیدر خجل هم غلاف تیغ هم مسمار در هم در خجل با غروب آفتاب طلعت نورانیت گشته‌ام سر تا قدم از روی پیغمبر خجل هم صدف بشکست هم دردانه‌ات از دست رفت سوختم بهر صدف گردیدم از گوهر خجل همسرم را پیش چشم دخترم زینب زدند مردم از بس گشتم از آن نازنین دختر خجل گاه گاهی مرد خجلت می کشد از همسرش مثل من هرگز نگردد مردی از همسر خجل همسرم با چادر خاکی به خانه بازگشت از حسن گردیده ام تا دامن محشر خجل خواست زینب را بغل گیرد ولی ممکن نشد. مادر از دختر خجل شد، دختر از مادر خجل. باغ را آتش زدند و مثل من هرگز نشد. باغبان از غنچه و از لاله پرپر خجل. بانگ یافذ خذینی تا به گوش خود شنید، از کنیز خویش هم شد فاتح خیبر خجل. نظم میثم شعله زد بر جان اولاد علی، تا لب کوثر بود از ساقی کوثر خجل. صلوات.
Assalamu alaikum. We truly appreciate for the participation of our Sunday school. So for the well-being of all teachers and our students, please say 3 loud salawat. You want to go? You want to?
يلا هبدأ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today, on the occasion of the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima az-Zahra, peace be upon her, my friends and I would like to share some beautiful lessons we can learn from the life of the Lady of Light. The Prophet ﷺ said, "My daughter Fatima is the chief of all the women of the world." Fatima az-Zahra ﷺ is described by the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. As the greatest woman of both this world and hereafter, Fatima is not an ordinary figure. From her childhood until her martyrdom, as she worked tirelessly to serve God and those around her. Verily, Fatima ﷺ was surnamed Abiha. Fatima az-Zahra is widely known for the deep love and respect she showed toward her father, the Prophet of God. She took such great care of him that he affectionately called her Abiha, the mother of her father. Despite being young, Fatima would often care for the Prophet after he had been harassed or attacked by others, showing an unwavering devotion to her father's well-being. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you're having a good day. I would just want to show you giving charity. Charity is about giving to others what you love for yourself, even when you may be in need. One important lesson that Lady Fatima taught us is the value of charity and how it benefits not only those who receive it, but community as a whole. She said, God prescribes charity for the purification of the soul and for the increase of substance. The Holy Quran emphasizes the importance of charity, and despite their love for it, they give food to the needy, the orphan, and the captive, saying, "We feed you only for the sake of Allah. We do not want any reward from you nor any thanks." Surah Al-Insan, verse 8 through 9. Throughout her life, Lady Fatima often put the needs of others before her own. This verse was revealed during the time when Fatima al-Zahra and Imam Ali alayhi salam, along with their children Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and their maid Fidha fasted for 3 days in the gratitude after Allah had healed their children from illness. On each of these nights, someone in need came to their door asking for food, and each time they gave away whatever they had left, remaining hungry themselves. On another occasion, during her wedding, Lady Fatima donated her wedding dress to a woman in need. When asked why, she quoted this verse from the Quran: "You will never gain piety until you spend from that which you love." Surah Ar-Rahman, verse 92. Salawat.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Lesson 3. The value of motherhood. They are Fatima and her father and her husband and her children. Fatima al-Zahra is the mother of the 11 inviolable Imams. Without Fatima's role as a mother, there is no connection between prophethood and imama. Hazrat Fatima's influence wasn't just in her own actions, but also in how she shaped the lives of her children, who became great leaders for others. Mothers are very important in all parts of society, whether they work at home or outside. All mothers help take care of their children, teach them right from wrong, guide them through challenges, and love them with all their hearts. Sometimes people forget just how much mothers do and the sacrifices they make. Mothers are a foundation for building strong, healthy communities, and their work is one of the most valuable in the world. Salawat.
Very good. Good job.
Okay, here? Okay. This one?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Upholding justice. To stand up for justice in your community. Lady Fatima was a true believer in upholding justice and standing up to corruption and evil. And as the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, she stood firm against all those who attempted to fight against the Prophet and his family. She says in her famous sermon of Fadah, "O people of understanding, supporters of faith and defenders of Islam, what is the cause of this negligence in defending my rights and laxity before the injustice being done to me?" Shortly after the death of the Holy Prophet, the rights of inheritance of Fatima al-Zahra were taken away. In response, Fatima delivered a famous sermon condemning the injustice. This was not for her own worldly gain, but to uphold justice and declare her rights. Knowing the ascetism of Fatima, it is understood that she did not care for this inheritance for its material value. Yet she still stood up for her rights. The lessons from this stance are critical, and as they highlight to us the maintaining justice is critical and should never be overlooked. She said, "God has ordered justice for making hearts intimate and upright." Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Remaining patient. Lady Fatima also taught us the importance of patience. No matter what challenges we face, she arguably faced some of the most extreme and trying challenges, with attacks on both of her father and husband as well as herself. But her steadfastness and patience and trust in God remains an important lesson for us all. God has made patience helpful in attaining its fruits compensation. If we can all remember the benefits of patience and trust in God the way Lady Fatima did, the changes in both ourselves as well as our communities would undoubtedly be positive and enormous. To pray for the well-being of others before yourself. Finally, Lady Fatima taught us the importance of remembering others in your prayers before your own prayers. Her selflessness and devotion to the Ummah remains one of the core lessons to learn from Lady Fatima, and we can all learn to be better Muslims by following her example of praying for others before ourselves. When asked by her son Hassan why she did not pray for herself, she answered, "My son, neighbors first, our household next." This is a crucial lesson for us living in the modern world. With the rise of individualism, we may sometimes forget to care for our neighbors and community members. It is essential for us to follow the message of Fatima and pray for the well-being of the Muslim Ummah. This is just one example of Lady Fatima's devotion and dedication towards serving the community around her, and her charity and love for those around her should never be forgotten or taken lightly. Without her guidance and teachings, many of the core teachings of Islam could have been forgotten or lost. While the anniversary of her death remains somber time of remembrance, let us remember that the best way to keep her memory alive and in our hearts is to uphold her beautiful ways of life through charity, honesty, patience, the praying for others, and protection of justice. May Lady Fatima always remain a light of inspiration for us all. Salawat.
Assalamu alaikum. We have a few minutes until our speakers comes. And today is our Dr. Shahzad's mother's death anniversary. Her name is Nargis Kauthar, the daughter of Ghulam Ali. Please remember her with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha after a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم بسم الله Also, let's remember those people who passed away from your family, our community, ulama, especially shuhada, regardless which place they have been martyred, in our du'as and supplication, and their family, with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, after recitation, added lot salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I asked the brother to send me the link of the Noha, so I'm going to recite what our dear brother recited. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. ای ز دست و سینه و بازوی تو حیدر خجل ای ز دست سینه و بازوی تو حیدر خجل، هم غلاف تیغ و هم مسمار در خجل، با غروب آفتاب طلعتت نورانیت، گشته ام سر تا قدم از روی پیغمبر خجل. Basically, this poem's reference to arms and the chest of the Fatemiyah Zahra alayhi salam. And Ali alayhi salam says, I am sorry by seeing the signs of the bruises on your hands and your chests, and also the sword that hit you, and mismar, and the hinge of the door that hurt you. I'm khajil, I'm feeling ashamed. And he said, not only I'm ashamed from you, but also I'm ashamed from the Prophet, because when the Prophet ﷺ married Zahra alayhi salam to Ali ibn Abi Talib, said, this is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to you. And we see when the Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he buried Zahra alayhi salam, in Nahj Balagh and sermon of, I believe, 200 says, O Prophet, the trust is returned back to its owner. Ham sadaf beshkasto, ham durdanat az dast raft, sukhtam bahre sadaf, gardidam az gohar khajel. همسرم را پیش چشم دخترم زینب زدند، مردم از بس گشتم از آن نازنین دختر خجل. This is really touches and burns the heart, this poem. It says, they beat, they slap my wife in front of my daughter Zainab. And not only I become a khajil, become ashamed of Zainab, but also Zainab becomes khajil of the mother. گهگاهی مرد خجلت می کشد از همسرش، مثل من هرگز نگردد مردی از همسر خجل. He says sometimes a husband becomes ashamed of his wife. But me, Haydar, become khajil, become ashamed of Zahra. The one that single-handedly took Umar ibn Abdulwad and put his back down on the dust. The one, Haydar, that with one hand took the door of Khaybar. همسرم با چادر خاکی به خانه برگشت، از حسن گردیده ام تا دامن محشر خجل. When they took Ali alayhi salam from his house to masjid to give oath of allegiance, Zahra alayhi salam ran after him. And it says her chador becomes dusty. The scarf, the abaya that she was wearing become dusty. And by seeing her abaya, her chador become dusty, I become khajil of the Hassan. خواست زینب را بغل کند، خواست زینب را بغل کند ولی ممکن نشد. مادر از دختر خجل، دختر از مادر خجل. If a mother wants to hug the child, She needs the arm, right? How Zahra alayhi salam with bruised arm could give a hug to Zainab, her daughter. بانگ یافز خذینی تا به گوش خود شنید از کنیز خیش هم شد فاتح خیبر خجل خواست زینب را بغل گیرد ولی ممکن نشد مادر از دختر خجل دختر از مادر خجل باغ را آتش زدند و مثل من هرگز نشد باغبان از غنچه و از لاله پرپر خجل بانگ یافز خزینی تا به گوش خود شنید از کنیز خیش هم شد فاتح خیبر خجل اظهار درد دل به زبان آشنا نشد دل شد سخون لب با لب و این غنچه وا نشد آنجا از زمان که جدا از تنم شده است یک دم سر من از سر زانو جدا نشد با آنکه دست دشمن دو بازویم شکست دیدی که دامن تو ز دستم رها نشد شرمنده ام حمایت من بی نتیجه ماند دستم شکست و بند ز دست تو وا نشد. Now this is the reply of Zahra alayhi salam. Says Sharmandam, says I feel ashamed because Zahra alayhi salam, when they took Ali ibn Abi Talib to the masjid, they tied his hand. He says, I am Sharmanda, I am Khajil, I feel ashamed. I came after you, but my coming to the masjid did not help you because the tie was not untied. The rope that was tied, it was not untied when I reached the masjid. Dastam shekasto, my arm was broken. و بند ز دست تو وا نشد. He said, my arm got hurt and broken. But as a result of that, the tie was not untied from your hand. از ما کسی سراغ ندارد قریب تر در این میان درد ز پلو ز پالو جدا نشد. Please recite 3 loud salawat, and I hope Dr. Kikim will show up at any moment, inshallah. Allah. We have. Huh? His bathroom. Salama sallallahu ala Muhammad. So let's remember to recite all together. Sallallahu ala Muhammad. Let's do one ayatul kursi for those people who passed away, al-ulama, shuhada, everyone. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياءهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. 3 salawat.
Let us remember all the marhumin, but especially those who are caught up in the conflict zone in Lebanon, southern Lebanon. Let us all remember all of them with Surah Al-Mubarakatul Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين رحمة للعالمين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فإنما لا تعمى الأبصار ولكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. When the Quran talks about the month of Ramadan, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, it does not introduce it as the month of fasting. Rather, it introduces it as the month in which the Quran was revealed. The Quran holds a very central place in our lives. We tend to think of the Quran as something that we use from time to time. When somebody dies, or when somebody gets married, when a woman is pregnant, and so on. Whereas in reality, the Quran should be the center of our lives at all times. I don't know whether in your culture, but in our culture, when a woman gets married, when a young girl gets married, we take the Quran and put it on the head. Do you guys do that? And I always say the Quran was not brought or was not revealed to be put on the head. It was revealed to be put in the head. In other words, we are supposed to use it in our daily lives. Importantly, the Quran is not a legal document. Most of our laws do not come from the Quran. The Quran tells us to pray. The conditions and how to pray, etc., come in the hadith. The Quran does not go into details about the manasik of Hajj or of fasting and so on. It gives us the basic. So the Quran is not a book of law. It's not even a book of history. It talks about Noah or Musa. It doesn't tell us when he was born, where he was born, how he lived, and so on, the name of his wife, nothing. Because the Quran is not a historical document. It is a moral document. It wants us to live a proper, good life. So therefore, it tells us about history to make us realize how we are supposed to shape our lives today. And therefore, it's also important for us to understand that it also, the Quran wants to instill within us, not only to obey God, not only to pray to Allah, but more importantly, to be connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very easy to pray, to go up and down. But to actually be bonded, have feelings for Allah, is a different thing. What I want to talk to you today is about the spirituality of the Quran, something that we have largely ignored. That how the Quran wants us to become moral and spiritual human beings. Because there's a lot of spirituality in the Quran. The verse that I recited in front of you says, فَإِنَّمَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ. It is not the eyes that are blind, وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبَ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. It is the hearts which are in the chest which are blind. When the Quran talks of the heart, does not mean the physical heart. It's a seat of consciousness. There is a yearning, if you like, to be linked to the divine. See, we all are in search. What are we searching for? We are searching for connection to the divine. How can we be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? we tend to think of ourselves as human beings who sometimes have a spiritual experience. You hear a good lecture, you hear the Quran, you are spiritually motivated. But in reality, we are not human beings. We are spiritual beings who are having a human experience. And that's why the concept of the return is so important in the Quran. Subhanalladhi biyadi malakutu kulli shayin wa ilayhi turja'un. Glory be to Lord, the Lord, in whose hands is the whole of the kingdom. But to him is the return. The concept of return is very important in the Quran. When somebody dies, we say, wa inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We don't say ilayhi dhahibun. We're not going to Allah. We're returning. You only return where you came from. But on this earth, we forget. We forget our spiritual origins and our spiritual returns. It is this sense of an intimate connection with the divine that I wish to talk about tonight. As human beings then, what the Quran teaches us is how to be God-centered. Ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Have the taqwa the way the taqwa should be have. In other words, have that inward connection. Taqwa is nothing but the inner connection with the divine. The way it should be have, and make sure that you do not die except in a state of complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This sense of God-centeredness, God awareness is so very prevalent in the Quran that the Quran tells us very clearly, فَأَيْنَمَا تَوَلَّوْا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Wherever you turn, you will find the face of Allah. Not the physical face, of course. In other words, the presence of Allah. You cannot escape Him. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He is with you, wherever you are. I teach in a university, and I've taught other religions too. I'm not an expert in other religions. My expertise is in Islam. But having taught Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism at a very introductory level, in no scripture, in no book, you will find a verse like this in the Quran. There's this in the Quran. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ, the Quran says. We are closer to the human beings than his or her own jugular veins. You know, say jugular vein is right there. But Allah is even closer to you than that. That's the sense of closeness to Allah that the Quran wants to instill within us. But the Quran goes even further, that we as human beings have got certain insights. And remember, there is a difference in sights. We talk of different sights. One is the eyesight. Eyesight is what you see with your eyes. The Quran tells us, challenges us, siru fil ard, travel in the earth. فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. See how the fate of those who denied us, what their fate was. So it wants us to have an eyesight. But that eyesight must lead to an insight. In other words, it should open us our fu'ad, as we call it. Our conscious, what we see should strike us in our hearts. And what we see in our hearts should lead us to a better sight in the future. It's called foresight. How we behave, how we live in the future. But that insight also comes from Allah. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ بَصَائِرٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Insights have come to you from your Lord. The Quran tells us in Surah number 6. فَإِنَّمَا مَنْ أَبْصَرَ فَلِنَفْسِهِ. Whoever has opened his eyes, it is to his or her advantage. وَمَنْ عَمَى فَعَلَيْهَا. But the one who is blind is against him. What is so remarkable is that the Quran is using the word blind here, not as opposed to eyesight, but as opposed to insight. In other words, the one who is truly blind is the one who may have eyes, but still does not see with the heart. Can you see the connection here of eyesight and insight? Allah talks to us in different ways. Not only through the insights that He gives us, but also the ayatullah, nature, signs of God. Sanurihim ayatuna fil afak wa fi anfusihim. We will show them our ayat in the horizons, in nature, and in their own self. Wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahumul haqq, so that the truth can appear to them. But in order to feel the presence of the divine, we have to open ourselves, look within us. The search, my friends, is not outside us, it's within us. And therefore the Quran reminds us repeatedly. It says us, وَإِلَى اللَّهِ الْمَصِيرُ, and your journey is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want to know where you're going to? The journey is to Allah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala. Not only does He reach out to us through His insights, through His ayat, but He teaches us. He reaches us and He also teaches us. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. It's a remarkable verse. That have the taqwa of Allah and Allah will teach you. It's a promise from Allah. Allah teach me. Allah teach you. How does He teach us? You don't need to go to Him. He will come to you. As long as you have the taqwa. What is this taqwa that the Quran is talking about? It's the ability to open ourselves to the divine. To live in a state of balance whereby what is inside us is what is outside us too. In other words, to live in harmony. Harmony with others, harmony with nature, but to be at peace with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a very beautiful hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ, that adorn yourself with the virtues of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has given us attributes. We all have the attributes of love, of mercy, of kindness, of compassion. Where did we get this? These are actually given to us by Allah. And we need to develop them. And the more we develop them, the more we grow in them, the closer we get to the one who gave it to us in the first place. The more you love others, the more you will experience the love of Allah. The more you forgive others, the more Allah will forgive you. So the akhlaq of Allah are those virtues that Allah has given to us. There is another beautiful verse that we recite in the month of Ramadan. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي أَنِّي إِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. If my servants ask you about me, tell them I am close to them. Allah is close to us. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِي. I answer the call of those who call out to me. In other words, Allah's closeness is connected with us calling out to Him. You call out to Him, أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ. I will answer the call to those who call out to me. My friends, I do not know about you, but I feel many a time that we are dominated by noise. We are living in a culture of noise. Have you noticed it? Everywhere you go, they blare music and shout and so on at you. Whether it's the radio, even when you are shopping, there's noise. Even in the elevators now. The elevators, when you go what we call the lifts, they have music in there too. Even in the washroom also. They will not leave you alone there. It's a culture of noise. When we live in a culture of noise, what happens is that we forget to look inside us. Because in order to look within us, we need silence, meditation. And meditation requires deep contemplation also. As I was saying yesterday, even during the tawaf, people are talking on the phone. If I can share my own personal anecdote, I don't like to talk about myself. But when I go for tawaf, I take my cell phone with me. But I recite Dua Jawshan Kabir. When you recite Dua Jawshan Kabir, it is full of the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an elevation, spiritual elevation. Because believe me, just going around can be very, very robotic, monotonic. Everybody's just going around the Kaaba. So what? But you need to bond yourself with Allah. Because in reality, Allah doesn't live in the Kaaba. He lives within us. As another hadith Qudsi says, Allah says himself that the heavens and the earth cannot contain me. Allah is so great that even the heavens and the earth cannot contain me, he says. But if you want to find me, look in the heart of a true believer. You'll find me there. He's within us. We need to look within ourselves. One of the things that we also need to do in order to feel the presence of the divine, to feel the spirituality. And notice that almost everything I have said so far is coming from the Quran itself. It's the question of peace and tranquility. And therefore, when we are calling out to our Lord in the salat, in the dua, it must not be just a dua, by the way. The dua is not only to ask for things, my friends. The dua is to interrogate our own selves of what I have done, how wrong I have been. That's point one. فَإِنَا عَبْدُ الضَّعِيفُ الظَّلِيلُ الْحَقِيرُ الْمِسْكِينُ الْمُسْتَكِينُ. You'll remember in Dua Kumail. We're acknowledging our own wrongdoings. But at the same time, in the dua, we're supposed to call out to Allah. That calling out is supposed to be with yearning. What we call in Urdu and Farsi, ishq. You know what's ishq? It's more than love. It's passion, it's yearning. And therefore Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam says in one of his beautiful munajat, Sallu ala Muhammad. He says, Kun anisi fi wahshati. Be my intimate companion in my time of loneliness. Wahshat, we recite namaz shahada, wahshat, is the time of being alone. Oh my Lord, be my, not just a companion. Uns is intimacy. Be my intimate companion. Especially the time of the salat, by the way. When we go to pray, make sure that you've emptied yourself. It's very difficult. Because shaitan knows that's the time that he will strike most. When we are about to start our prayers, all our thoughts come to us. But that's the time you need to empty yourself first. Switch off everything that can distract you, all these cell phones and noises and notifications, switch them all off. It is quality time between you and your Lord. And pray slowly. Pray with tranquility. You'll find your mind goes away, bring it back. Your mind goes away, bring it back. One of the things that we fail to do is the dhikr. The dhikr is nothing but a complete, continuous remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you know the best time to call out to our Lord? وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَاسْجُدْ لَهُ. In a portion of the night, do the sujda to Him. Do the sujood to Him. وَسَبِّحْهُ لَيْلًا طَوِيلًا. And glorify Him long parts of the night. Believe me, there's nothing more loving and more spiritual than the night prayers. We want to elevate ourselves. We want to feel this spiritual presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we do that? Again, the Quran tells us, وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ, in a portion of the night, فَتَحَجَّدْ بِهِ نَافِلَةً لَكَ. Recite the nafila, the voluntary prayers, the night prayers. أَسْأَنْ يَبْعَثَكَ رَبُّكَ مَقَامًا مَحْمُودًا. So that your Lord can elevate you to a higher position. We want spiritual elevation. It's not easy, my friends. Like everything else, in our daily lives, we struggle. We struggle because we want to succeed. Correctly so. But similarly, how about our spiritual lives, our spiritual well-being? We need to make some sacrifices, including myself, all of us, this is what is called the prayers of the midnight sun. The prayers of the midnight sun does not mean that we go in the Arctic and pray. Because when you pray the prayers of the midnight sun, it is the layl, it is the light of Allah which shines upon you. The light of Allah shines upon you and you get the nur within your face. You may have noticed, I have known people who when you look at them, they've got light. They radiate peace. They radiate light. Because of that special position that they have with the Lord. Because of what they have earned. Allah doesn't just give His light. Allahu yahdi li nurihi man yasha. Remember the ayat al-Nur. Allah guides to His light whoever He wishes, but we need to deserve that. One of the key things, one of the key elements in Islamic spirituality is what? Peace. We all desire peace. As I say, we live in a culture of noise. How do we attain that peace? Again, the Quran tells us how to attain that peace and tranquility. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innal qulub. Indeed, it is through the remembrance of Allah that your hearts will attain peace. Remember, remembrance of Allah is not only on the musalla. Even when you are working, you are driving, you are doing anything else. I've seen people whose lips are always moving in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fadhkuruni adhkurkum, the Quran says. You remember me and I will remember you too. It's a mutual relationship between us and the divine. And when you do your dhikr continuously, you know what happens? We forget our dhikr. We are so much engrossed in it. Have you noticed many a time we are doing so much work that we even forget our own selves because we are so much engrossed and busy in something? Same thing with dhikr. True dhikr is that you forget your dhikr. You become so much engrossed in it. It's a word that the mystics use. Unfortunately, in the West especially, the word has taken very negative connotation. But the actual word is ecstasy. You know what's ecstasy? We're talking of spiritual bliss, my friends. We're not talking of the drug. We're talking of spiritual bliss, spiritual elevation. So much so that you cannot even imagine the joys of worship. True worship is that the distance between the lover and the beloved have been removed. Between the us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, we have taken the attributes that Allah has given to us to the fullest extent. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alam. If I can recite in front of you a true story which I read in a book. It's called The Mantle of the Prophet. It's a true story. Some of you may recognize him. The name is given in the book as Ali Hashimi, The Mantle of the Prophet. And it's a person by the name of Ali Hashimi. He grows up in Qom. And he wants to be a scholar. So he goes into the Talabeh, the Hawza. And then one day, he tells his father, I want to study Irfan, Islamic spirituality. It's not something which is taught easily, by the way. You don't just go in the house and learn Irfan. It's only taught in very close classes. The father takes him to a sheikh. The sheikh opens the Quran. He said, good, istikhara. And the sheikh tells Ali Hashimi that from now, every moment that you are awake, you will say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You see the power of dhikr? And then after, this is called the wird. After 14 days, Ali Hashimi is told to change into another wird, another dhikr. And he's also told very clearly, the sheikh tells that make sure that you pray Salatul Layl every day. Every night, you pray Salatul Layl. It's difficult, huh? And especially on Thursday nights, you don't sleep after midnight. And Ali Hashim is reporting this, that as he was doing it after a little while, he felt a sense of light within him. People were reporting that there was nur on his face. And then one day he woke up and he saw it was there. It was everywhere. It was inside him. It was outside him. It was on the trees, on the walls, in the houses. Everywhere he looked, it was there. What was it? It was the light. Everything became light. It's what we call in English ineffable. Ineffable means you cannot describe it. You can only experience it. Because there are languages got certain restrictions, my friend. Because our language is the language of the physical. It's not about the metaphysical. And therefore, there are certain things that we cannot describe simply because there's no words for it. It's something that you can only experience it when you go through. But it's possible. It's possible in any way. As I said, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. Allah is the light of the heaven and the earth. And everywhere you look, Allahu yahdi li nuri man yasha. He guides to His light whoever He wishes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alayhi. It's important, therefore, that we take these steps very seriously if we want to develop that spirituality. I know that we all have commitments. We are all busy in our works. But this is also for our akhirah. It leads to a very spiritually fulfilling life for us. Therefore, Imam Ali, who is perhaps the best model for us after the Prophet of Islamic spirituality. Something remarkable about Imam Ali, you will notice. Even for those who are not Shi'as of Ali. Look at the Sufis, the mystics. They have the silsila, the chain. But almost invariably the chains go through whom? Through Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because they know that this man was not just an ordinary person. He was a person of deep spirituality. One day, Muawiyah called Dhirar. Dhirar, tell me something about Ali ibn Abi Talib. You were his companion. What sort of a person was he? Dhirar says, what can I tell you about him? That one day when I was living in Kufa, in the middle of the night, I decided to go to the mosque of Kufa. The mosque of Kufa in those days was very different from what it is now. So Dhirar goes to the mosque. He says, in one part of the mosque, I heard somebody crying out. I went closer and closer. I saw somebody was in sajda. And he was crying out to his Lord passionately. And who was that person? Ali ibn Abi Talib. That's why he's known for his spirituality. Another element which is very important to bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what else, you know? It is also called mahabba. فَمَنْ ذَا الَّذِي ذَاقَ حَلَاوَةَ مَحَبَّتِكَ فَرَامَ مِنْكَ بَدَلًا. Who is the one? This is a munajat from Imam Zainul Abidin when he says, who is the one who has tasted the sweetness of your love and then goes and tastes another love? Because your love is so sweet, oh my Lord. Every other love is relative. The only one and absolute love is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's something that we barely talk of, unfortunately. That love of Allah. And therefore in the Nahj Balagha, Imam Ali tells one of his companions that when human beings are spiritually close to the divine, when you're close to Allah, you see the world in a different way. You see what others do not see. You hear what others do not hear. He did everything for the sake of Allah. So Allah favored him and made him part of his wali, a very special person. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Is there a way we can control these kids coming in the middle, please? It's kind of disruptive. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. We were talking about Hazrat Fatima. These are part of the Ayam Fatemiyah. You know, some people, through ignorance, hopefully, they object as if Fatima was so important, why is there no mention of Fatima in Nahj Balagha? Nahj Balagha is what? Is the letters that, the khutbahs that Imam Ali gave and the letters that he wrote. When you go on the mimbar, you don't talk about your wife, do you? When you write to Muawiyah or somebody else, you don't talk about your wife. What kind of an argument is that? But yet we find that in one of the earliest books that we have, the book of Sulaiman bin Qais al-Hilali, it has got traditions. This is one of the, Sulaiman was a companion of Imam Ali. He talks of the virtues of Fatima alayhi salam, that she is the Sayyidatun Nisa'il Alameen. She is the mistress of the whole of the women in the universe in her time. As I said yesterday, she is considered as also a muhaddatha, someone who converses with the angels. Fatima is not only born in a house of revelation, she carries the burden of the revelation too. Because it is, don't forget, she is the link between the nubuwwah and the imamah. The wilayat of the imams flows through Fatima to Zahra alayhi salam. Without Fatima, there is no link between the nubuwwah and the imamah. Therefore, she is seen as the mother of all the imams. She is also a symbol not of a crying Fatima, but a symbol of standing up to oppression, a symbol of justice, of righteousness in the face of injustice. It's a remarkable feature that we perhaps take for granted. Let us put ourselves back in 7th century Arabia, not today's world, where women were seen as chattel slaves. Women would not come and speak in front of men. And here is Fatima going against the tradition and culture, saying, no, I will speak because something has to be spoken. There's wrongdoing here. And nobody could be as eloquent and as clear as Fatima to Zahra. The way that she spoke in front of the Sahaba, it was amazing. So we hear of Fatima coming and speaking for social justice. She becomes an inspiration for those who fight for truth and justice. You see, Fadak is only a piece of land. But sometimes things tell us beyond things, if you know what I mean. It's not only a piece of land that she was fighting for. She was fighting for the rights of inheritance, that you have to stand up wherever your rights are taken away. And therefore she comes in front of the people addressing the first caliph. Ya Aba Qahafa, O Abu Qahafa, do you think that you can inherit from your father, but I cannot? Doesn't the Quran say that Sulaiman inherited from Dawood? If Sulaiman can inherit from Dawood, how can I not be inheriting? Because one of the arguments that was put forward, that the Prophet said that we prophets do not give inheritance. Well, the Quran says the opposite. Look at what Fatima is telling us also. That when you find a ghalat hadith, you put the Quran in front of it. Because the Quran stands alone. The Quran can overpower any hadith. Because the Quran is the word of Allah. So the hadith that were given, that we heard the Prophet say, that the prophets are not inherited, says, but the Quran says the opposite. The Quran says that Sulaiman inherited not only the prophethood, but even the domain, the whole malakut of Dawood itself. So it is wrong for us to think of Fatima as a sad and passive woman, because she not only fought for the rights, she creates awareness within us that we can identify with her pain and her injustice. She bears not only the revelation, but the message of the revelation of the Prophet. She's telling us something else also. What it means to be selfless. A lot of us, including myself, we are selfish. We're looking at our own selves. What's in it for me? إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. We are giving it away to you for what? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We do not want even a thank you from you. We've all heard the story many a time of for 3 days they fasted. And then Miskin, Yatim, and Asir came at the time of breaking the fast. I don't want to go into details. But there is something that I want to point out that we have taken for granted. That when we do something good, we always say, Inshallah, I will get Jannah. I will get Sawab for this. When you do something good, you don't do it because you want something back in return. You do it because it is within you to do good. There is love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore the Quran says, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. Not لِوَجْهِ الْجَنَّةِ. Not لِوَجْهِ الثَّوَابِ. We're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're giving it away. Similarly, interestingly, When the Quran talks about Ali ibn Abi Talib sleeping on the bed of the Prophet at the night of Hijrah, the Quran says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَسْرَهُ نَفْسُهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. Amongst the people are those who sell their own selves. What is more dear to you than your own self? Huh? What is more dear to me than my own self? They give their own self for what? Fi mardhatillah, so as to gain Allah's pleasure. Not Jannah, not thawab, nothing. It is Allah that we want. The Jannah is just a reward, my friends. But the true yearning is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is exactly what Fatemiyah says. نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is also many a time a statement made by others that, well, because others also wanted to marry Fatemiyah, and yet they were refused. So Fatemiyah was too young. In those days, at her age, women would get married. It doesn't jive with us because our culture is different. Look at the way Aisha and other women also, by the age of 9, they were married in those days. It wasn't because she was too young that others were rejected. It was only because of what we call compatibility, kufu. There was only one person who could marry Fatemah to Zahra, that was Ali ibn Abi Talib. And therefore Tabarani, who is a Sunni scholar, and we've seen this hadith in many of the Sunni books, that the Prophet is sitting in the mosque with his companions and he sees somebody come to him and talk to him. And the Prophet said, this is Jibreel has told me that Allah has ordered me to perform the marriage of Ali ibn Abi Talib with my daughter Fatimah to Zahra. See, there is these things, is what is called compatibility. It's not only about money, my friends. After all, what money did Ali have at that time? Very little. But it was the character, the ethics, the akhlaq, the chosenness of Ali ibn Abi Talib with Fatimah to Zahra. And we find that they led a very poor life. But what they did have, we tend to think that one who's got a lot of things is rich. Richness does not depend on how much you have, my friends. Richness depends on how little you need. The less you need, the more rich you are. Because it's the spiritual richness that is important. Indeed, I was talking about the Ayatul Tathir yesterday. But ironically, this is a hadith in Bukhari itself. And if I remember correctly, even in Muslim, that the Prophet says that do not send to me the Salawatul Batra. Salawatul Batra is truncated, one which is cut, the salawat, which is not complete. What is the complete salawat? The Prophet told them, when you send the salawat, Inna Allah wa malaikatu sallun ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, sallu alayhi wa sallimhu taslima. The right form of salawat is the salawat that we recite, not only on the Prophet, but also on his Ahlul Bayt. And I talked to you yesterday about who the Ahlul Bayt are. My sisters and brothers, my time is running out. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here in front of you. But many a people, they open our eyes after their eyes are closed. They speak even after their death. They speak to us through history forever. After all, this was the daughter of the Prophet. Why would she want to be buried in secrecy? Why would she want to be buried where nobody knows where she is buried? Don't you think that she's trying to tell us something? After all, the Sahaba, they were all buried either next to the Prophet or in Jannatul Baqi. We know where they are buried. But yet Fatimah to Zahra, the one who was the closest to the Prophet himself. In the Aisha tells us that when the Prophet was about to die, we saw that Fatimah was continuously crying. And then suddenly she smiled. And then she cried again. And I asked her, why did you smile when you were crying? She says, because my father told me, oh Fatimah, you'll be the first one to join me after I die. You'll be the first one. Azadarana Hussein. Even the Sunni sources, Ibn Hajar says that Jibreel came to Fatima and said, "Oh Fatima, there is no greater grief than what you have gone through." Fatima is the one who experiences all those difficulties that we talked about yesterday. She comes to the people after what happened to her, after the threats, after the door that fell on her. That she says, "I am Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet." He is the one who propagated the message. He is the one who gave you the message. My father was not even buried, and you went and chosen your own caliph, even though he clearly appointed my husband. Oh people, how can you turn away from Islam? Doesn't the Quran says that Muhammad is just a prophet? Other prophets have died. Will you then turn your backs against us? Oh people, how can you do this to us? Fatima used to cry so much that the people came and told Ali, "Tell Fatima we cannot bear this anymore." She used to go to Baqi to cry for her father. It was just not a normal cry. It was through the pain and anguish of what she had gone through. Some riwayat said that Bilal, who was not in Medina, but he came back, and the people told him, "Bilal, Fatima wants to hear the adhan to remember the Prophet." When Bilal said, "Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah," the riwayat said, Bilal, the people came to Bilal and said, "Bilal, stop right there. Fatima has fallen unconscious." Haya Zadarana Hussein. Fatima says to her father, "Oh, my strength has gone, oh my father. The enemies have rejoiced. Your grief will kill me. My life is disturbed. Oh my father, my longing for you will never cease." Azadarana Hussein. And then she turns to the mimbar and says to her father, "The mimbar is empty without you. I cannot sleep without you. Oh my father, how I miss you." Fatima is crying all the time. "I will tell you, oh my father, of all the troubles that have fallen on me." At one point the riwayat said, on one night Fatima sees her father in her dream. She calls Ali when she wakes up and she says, "Ya Ali, promise me that you will marry somebody who will look after my children. Hassan and Hussein are still very young. You will bury me in secrecy, and only a very few of the close companions will pray over me with you." Asadarana Hussein. Fatima does the wudu then, faces the Kaaba. She goes to the room and tells Asma, "Oh Asma, when you do not hear me anymore, know that I am gone." Asma does not hear the salawat and the prayers of Fatima anymore. Hassan and Hussein come say, "Where is our mother?" Asma points to the room that your mother is no more. Ali Azadarana Hussein. There is grief and crying in the house of Ali. Fatima is no more. Ali goes to the mosque and talks to the Prophet, "Ya Rasulullah, who will console me now?" Ali tells the Prophet that my life now has become a continuous heartache until we meet again. Your daughter will tell you how these people have treated us after you left. As Ali puts the janaza of Fatima in the qabr, he says, "A rose came from Jannah. The rose has gone back to Jannah." Azadarana Hussein. Ali cries because of the sorrows. We say to Ali, "At least you were there to give the ghusl and kafan and dafan. Come to Karbala and you will see what happened to your son Hussein." Not only did they kill Hussein, Umar ibn Sa'd turns to his army and he says on the day of Ashura, "I want volunteers to go and trample over the bodies of Hussein." Ala lanatullah lal qawmi al-zalimin. Mata min Hussein.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. फातिमा का भरे मदीने में गम बटाने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का भरे मदीने में गम बटाने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का भरे मदीने में गम बटाने कोई नहीं. घर जलाने को कलमा गो आए, घर जलाने को कलमा गो आए, दर बुझाने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का भरे मदीने में गम बटाने कोई नहीं आया. गम बटाने क्या वो इस्लाम का ही मरकज था, क्या मदीना था वो मोहम्मद का. क्या वो इस्लाम का ही मरकज था, क्या मदीना था वो मोहम्मद का. लग रहे थे जहां पे ज़हरा के ताज़ियाने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का भरे मदीने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का भरे मदीने में गम बटाने कोई रस्सियाँ थी अली की गर्दन में और बाजार से गुजरते थे. रस्सियाँ थी अली की गर्दन में और बाजार से गुजरते थे. सब तमाशाई बन के तकते रहे और छुड़ाने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का भरे मदीने में गम बटाने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का भरे मदीने में घर जला कत्ल हो गए मोहसिन, पसलियां सैयदा की टूट गई. घर जला कत्ल हो गए मोहसिन, पसलियां सैयदा की टूट गई. फिर भी कहते हो तुम के ज़हरा पर जुल्म ढाने कोई नहीं आया. फातिमा का जुल्म बटाने कोई नहीं आया. खुद ही चुनने लगी नबी ज़ादी, बिखरी तहरीर अपने बाबा की. खुद ही चुनने بکھری تحریر اپنے بابا کی، مصطفیٰ کی سند کے ٹکڑوں کو ہائے جب اٹھانے کوئی نہیں آیا، فاطمہ کا کوئی نہیں آیا، ہر ستم فاطمہ پہ ڈھایا گیا، جلتا دروازہ بھی گرایا گیا، ہر ستم فاطمہ پہ ڈھایا گیا، جلتا دروازہ بھی گرایا گیا، اپنے مہدی کو دی صدا اس نے، ہائے جب بچانے کوئی نہیں آیا، فاطمہ کا غم بٹانے کوئی نہیں آیا، قبر مدینے آٹھ شوال کو ہوئی اکبر، پھر شہادت نبی کی بیٹی کی، آٹھ شوال کو ہوئی اکبر، پھر شہادت نبی کی بیٹی کی، گر رہا تھا مزار بی بی کا، اور بچانے کوئی نہیں آیا، فاطمہ کا بھرے سینے میں غم بٹانے کوئی نہیں آیا، فاطمہ کا سینے میں غم بٹانے کوئی نہیں آیا،
من gerek her derdimi senle böleydim bölmedim. Men gerek guslu veren saat öleydim ölmedim. Ölmedim kaldım cenazen üstünde sinemi dağladım. Ölmedim öz ellerimle gözlerini bağladım. Yaralı Zehram, get seni tapşırdım Allah'a. Yaralı Zehram, get seni tapşırdım Allah'a. Yaralı Zehram, get seni tapşırdım Allah'a. Doymuşam canem dahil, sensiz cehani neynirem. Dünyada çok ömür sürmeyin, ölmürem bu sabrin təqatim. Kim benim var Fatimem, aç gözünü sındırma. Düşmanın var Fatimem, leke kan düşmüş gözünü. Aç yumma yandırma beni, and ola öz canıma. Zehra utandırma beni, yaralı Zehra. Get seni tapşırdım Allah'a, yaralı Zehra. Get seni tapşırdım Allah'a, yaralı Zehra. Get seni tapşırdım Allah'a.
حسين يا حسين. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت، ويله ماتت. حان توقيت الدمع والفاجعة، حان توقيت الدمع والفاجعة، من الأرض حتى السماء السابعة، من الأرض حتى السماء السابعة. اليوم ماتت رحمة الله الواسعة، اليوم ماتت رحمة الله الواسعة. قتلت الزهرة الأيادي المجرمة، ويلاه يا ماتت فاطمة، ويلاه ماتت فاطمة، ويلاه ماتت فاطمة، ويلاه ماتت فاطمة. بليل شيع هالزكية الطاهرة، بليل شيع هالزكية الطاهرة، وين يدفنها بدمعته حيدرة، وين يدفنها بدمعته حيدرة. الزهرة أكبر والله من المقبرة، الزهرة أكبر والله من المقبرة. بس قلب حيدر ترى بقد السما، بس قلب حيدر ترى بقد السما. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة. حان توقيت الدمع والفاجعة، حان توقيت الدمع والفاجعة، من الأرض حتى السماء السابعة، من الأرض حتى السماء السابعة. اليوم ماتت رحمة الله الواسعة، اليوم ماتت رحمة الله الواسعة. قتلت الزهرة الأيادي المجرمة، قتلت الزهرة الأيادي المجرمة. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة. بليل شيعها الزكية الطاهرة، بليل شيعها الزكية الطاهرة، وين يدفنها بدمعته حيدرة، وين يدفنها بدمعته حيدرة. الزهرة أكبر والله من المقبرة، الزهرة أكبر والله من المقبرة. بس قلب حيدر ترى بقد السماء، بس قلب حيدر بقد السماء، بس قلب حيدر ترى بقد السماء. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. متوجه زيارة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله، السلام علیکی یا فاطمۃ الزہرا سیدتی نساء العالمین. السلام علیکی یا خدیجۃ الکبریٰ. السلام علیک یا حسن المجتبی. السلام علی الحسین وعلی علی ابن الحسین وعلی اولاد الحسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیک علی ابن الحسین زین العابدین. السلام علیک محمد ابن علی الباقر المنبیین. السلام علیک جعفر ابن محمد الصادق. السلام علیک موسیٰ جعفر القادم. السلام علیک علی ابن موسیٰ رضا. السلام علیک محمد ابن علی الجواد. السلام علیک علی ابن محمد الحادی. السلام علیک حسن ابن علی الزکی العسکری. السلام علیک یا صاحب عصر والزمان. الامان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام علیک یا خلیفۃ الرحمن. السلام علیک امام الانس والجان. السلام علیک یا شریک القرآن. السلام علیک یا مظہر الایمان. السلام علیک امام زمانہ. حاذا عجل اللہ فرجک وسہل اللہ مخرجک. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اللہم صلی علی بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم.
اللهم صل وليك حجة ابن حسن صلواتك عليه وعلى في هذه الساعة ولي كل الساعة وليا وعابسا وكائدا وناصرا وذريا وأينا حتى تسكنه وتسكى توبة برحمتك فيها طويلة برحمتك يا